All right, let's get into it now. A spoiler-free review of Baby Girl with Nicole Kidman. We're also going to talk about what we learned in the post-screening discussion because we saw this movie at the Belcourt here in Nashville, which we are now members of.
That was the kick in the butt that we needed because they were doing a showing with a post-show discussion with Nicole Kidman herself, but it was only available to members. And we'd been talking about becoming members forever. And so we were like, now's the time. And then tickets went on sale. We were in Texas. We were in HEB.
Best grocery store.
We were like, we got to buy the tickets. So we just like pulled off on like the cleaning aisle in front of the Tide Pods and somehow got tickets. I knew they were going to go fast, but apparently they went in 2 minutes.
Which is wild.
And we somehow got them.
For those who don't know, Nicole Kidman lives in town with her husband, Keith Urban, who is also wildly famous. And this is her hometown movie theater.
Yeah.
She did a thing last summer where she like curated all like her movies and they honored her. So she actually goes to the Belcourt, which is wild. And
they're also members.
And this is the theater we talk about if you ever visit Nashville, that we recommend you come see a movie here because it is independently owned. This year they're going to be open for 100 years already, which is another just crazy thing for a movie theater that small to be open for that long, but they show a lot of indie movies. So now that we're members, we'll see a lot of the Oscar contenders there. So it's a great theater. But
great snack selection.
Very chill there. I love just the atmosphere when you walk in there. And I feel like every movie we've gone to there has been a memorable one.
Yeah.
Like rarely do we go there and I'm like, that movie kind of sucked. You just see good movies there.
Yeah, I don't think anything I didn't love. I saw the TV Glow, but
I liked it. But we're here to talk about Baby Girl, which Nicole Kidman plays a CEO. She gets this new intern who they start having a relationship and it throws a big wrench to the gear. And it is described as an erotic thriller, which pretty erotic, pretty thrilling.
I would agree with that genre.
So it's essentially a power dynamic of her being in a position of power and then having this desire to have this crazy, just straight on sexual relationship with this younger person. And she is married, has 2 kids that are older, which I think is important to the story as well. They end up playing a bigger part in how she navigates this entire thing. But it's kind of a power dynamic switch of the woman is the one in power. She's the CEO. And the intern is the young kind of boy toy, which later in the Q&A she described as like being a man-child, which I thought was funny.
She said a boy man.
Boy man, that's what
boy
it was.
Man.
I feel like it's kind of a rise of his type of actor with like the Timothy Chalamet, even though he's like freaking tall. And, like,
we should say we're talking about Harris Dickinson.
Yes, Harris Dickinson, who was also in The Iron Claw. I knew him from Triangle of Sadness.
I knew him from Scrapper, which was a good one that I saw at the Belcourt.
And I think he's kind of still at that level of you might recognize his face and not know his name. But he's a good actor.
He's a great actor.
And he essentially looks like a male model. That was his character in Triangle of Sadness. He was this dude who was a model. There was a funny thing in the trailer where he did like different expressions of like, this is the style of face you do if you do H&M ads. This is the style if you do luxury brands. So he looks like that. But when you really look at his work and look at his performances, especially in Iron Claw, he's just a really good actor. And I think this movie was a different side of him. It was more of a lead role. Even though he was pretty prominent in Iron Claw, I feel like that was more of Zac Efron's movie.
That was and an ensemble cast kind of.
This was seeing like how he can do with one of the best actors of our generation, Nicole Kidman, who I don't know what it is right now, but takes on the most physically demanding and sexual roles. That's kind of her thing.
Yeah.
And all the relationships that I feel that she's portrayed, not only in movies, but in TV, they've been very vulnerable. In this one, she has nude scenes, and she just kind of oozes with authenticity at this point, where it's like you go watch something with Nicole Kidman, and you know that she's there to play. Like, she's gonna do an amazing job, and I wonder how much of a toll like this movie takes on like just her well-being.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because it's so just emotionally draining, I feel like, and also, could you imagine psyching yourself up knowing like, I'm going to be naked in a movie today?
No.
I just couldn't. Like,
no, I can answer that now. No.
Because we watch it and we just see like, oh, this is 2 people just doing this. We just see that scope of it. If you look behind the camera, there's so many people there.
Yeah.
To have that much chemistry with a person and be naked in certain scenes or be doing sounds and motions and actions where, yes, maybe in a room if it was just you and that other person you could do it. But to be there with the director showing you with an intimacy coordinator,
Lighting,
camera people, all kinds of people around you, to still be able to give a performance that feels authentic, I feel is something that is just like, I don't know where you go to in your brain. And I don't know if you immediately leave that set and are like, all right, let's go on to my next thing. So what did you think about the movie overall?
I thought it was great. I mean, I expected it to be good because A, Nicole Kidman, B, A24, but it was better than I anticipated. Like just the acting, the storyline, the soundtrack, like the cinematography of it all. I thought it was phenomenal.
I thought it was going to be a little bit more, for the lack of a better phrase, dumbed down than it ended up being. And I think knowing now that there's a female director behind it and writer, I feel that is why the entire story was shifted the way that it was, and there was more to it than just two people hooking up behind somebody's back. There's a lot of just complexities in that relationship, and I feel overall a message that this movie was trying to make. So while the trailer just did kind of lean you towards, okay, it's going to be them and all these sexy situations, and with the soundtrack and just the way that they kind of sold the movie through the marketing, which I think A24 is trying to appeal to more people that aren't just like the typical A24 indie film goers. They're broadening their scope. They did it last year. They're going to do it even more in this coming year in 2025. I think that this was a really good direction for them to go in, and especially with Nicole Kidman behind it. I wish it kind of would have did better at the box office, but I feel like this is a little bit more of a word of mouth movie. And you have a lot of movies coming out in December where people were going to see like Mufasa and Sonic 3. It's kind of hard to sell a Christmas themed erotic thriller, which it is kind of a Christmas movie. There's a lot of Christmas in it. Happens around Christmas time.
A lot of Christmas trees.
But it's kind of hard to sell this movie around this time. So I think maybe now that it's out, once it goes to streaming, it'll do a little bit better. But I found myself really enjoying, I think, just the relationship dynamic and overall what this movie had to say. What did you learn in the post Q&A with Nicole Kidman there, which was kind of cool just to see her in person?
Yeah, first of all, she's gorgeous. She just like radiates, authenticity, like just being able to hear from her. I wanted to be like, excuse me, Miss Kidman, where'd you get that outfit? Can you link that for me?
Which we have seen her at the mall before here.
We have seen her at the mall. First of all, she talked about like working with, and she said this in interviews before, female directors, female writers. And I love that she acknowledged, she was like, I have some power in the industry. And it's like, I love hearing her say that and like be self-aware, because she does, and like what she's doing with that and doing smaller pictures. Like she talked about how this one, A24, isn't big studio backed. It doesn't have a big budget. She was like, we didn't have a huge timeline. So we'd film like 8 scenes in a day and you would just kind of do things back to back. And I love hearing that even at her like A-list level, she's doing these films that aren't like giant bankrollers. And I love that she was like, I was just a hired actor on this. She was like, I wasn't a producer. I didn't see it till it was done. So I just loved learning that like she still finds challenges in her work and like really is at the level where she only takes projects that she believes in.
Yeah. I liked what she said about that. Like they would have 8-hour days and they would go film, or she said 8-hour days, or they'd have to film like 8 scenes in a day.
8 scenes.
That's a lot of scenes.
That is a lot of scenes and a lot of dialogue to know, and just like, emotionally draining.
What I really enjoyed and learned is the fact that she is such just a fan of film and is so aware of what is going on right now, which I feel that some actors get to a point, especially at her level, where they don't even have to watch other movies. But she was able to talk about the work of all of her co-stars and like what they were in, who directed it, and knew so much about not just film in general, but what is happening right now, which is really important. But when you start to think about it, of a working actor, even at her level, it pays to know what is going on and like what is cool, what is not cool, what directors are about to pop off. The fact that, like you were saying, that she is working with a lot of like new directors, and she has worked with people before they were major stars, like just on the directing side. So it's kind of cool to see somebody at her level be so invested in what people are going to be and not just trying to work with all the big names now, because she can go do a movie like this that has a $20 million budget, and then she can turn around and do another Aquaman movie where she has a small cameo and makes millions and millions of dollars that could maybe fund her next project, which, I mean, she's fine. Her and Keith Urban are probably fine financially. But at that point, it's like, oh, I'll do this role, and then I can take the money I would make from that and fund it somewhere else. And then it was also hearing her say that she likes to keep some aspects of the filmmaking process a secret, because the person conducting the Q&A was asking more about some of those scenes. And she's like, hey, yeah, we have an intimacy coordinator, but I also don't want to reveal everything because that takes away some of the magic of filmmaking. So it's like, hey.
And then she did say one of her lines for my AMC ad.
Oh, yeah? What was it?
She said, heartbreak feels good here.
Yeah.
And then she laughed at herself. And I was like, we love a self-aware queen.
And then she thanked us for coming to the movies.
Yeah, she did.
So
we had like 30 minutes of discussion with her. Yeah, it was so cool.
And I like having post discussions because they get into all the spoiler stuff. So some of the stuff they did talk about would be spoiling it here. But she went into pretty big analysis on the ending of this movie and how it like connects to some of her other movies. And overall, I like being there, knowing that everybody has seen the movie and you're not ruining anything because you can talk about it and be like, oh yeah, I want to know about that. So yeah, it was really cool to be able to be in the same room with her and hear her talk about it after the fact. What would you rate BabyGirl?
4 out of 5 glasses of milk.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I give it a 4 out of 5. I'll say dirty hotel rooms. I think that's a solid, even with the post discussion and as much as I enjoyed it, there were some moments that felt a little bit where it was kind of ridiculous. And I think it kind of leaned into that a little bit. And it was fun, though, because there was people in the theater laughing. I just felt like it took a little bit away from the seriousness of the story at times. And it felt a little bit unbelievable. But I enjoyed those moments. But I think overall the movie was a little bit more emotional. And then in some parts of it got a little bit kind of like, we're just kind of laughing at the whole situation now. Which it kind of felt like a comedy at times. Very slightly. But there were moments where some of their interactions were a little bit like, okay, let's move on.
Yeah, and I mean, she talked about how there were a couple times that they just left the take in where it was like so outlandish.
Yeah.
Like there's one take that you'll know when a character laughs.
Where they break a little bit and they're like, yeah, we'll leave it in.
Yeah, which I loved.
Yeah, I think if you make a movie like this, you have to have a little bit of that lightheartedness, and especially working with your co-star like that of like, oh, this is going to be uncomfortable for both of us. Let's just have fun with it.
Yeah.
So those are our thoughts on BabyGirl.